Hello everyone, my name is Kay Woodgate. I'm a movement therapist at Move Beyond. Today I've got this little video to talk to you about optimal pelvic positioning, and the reason I wanted to share this with you is because at the moment I'm seeing lots of new clients and I'm noticing that the tendency can be to place the pelvis in a position that creates longer term problems. And I wanted to share with you some information regarding this so you can self-assess and find out your own patterns and therefore start finding your way towards better alignment, better posture, and generally therefore a stronger core. So what I'm seeing a lot of at the moment, it just so happens, is people with a tucked under position. So what is tucked under? A tucked under pelvis is a little bit like tail between the legs. So if I show you my side view, if I get my buttocks dropped down as if I'm swishing my tail right under, it results in more of a clenched buttock look and a flattened lower back, whereas we should be a lot more like this. There is the other side to this coin as well. People can have very much the reverse presentation, which is the pelvis tilted forward, which is kind of tail up and away. Neither of them is an optimal way to be. Now, I'm not saying that these are wrong positions. Our pelvis should be able to do both. But by and large, we then return back to average, to neutral, to a more relaxed and aligned spine in relation to the pelvis. That is a healthy way to be. We absolutely need to have this movement and that movement with the pelvis at the right time when appropriate. So what does the tail tucked under create in terms of a long-term effect? Well, if you experience this on yourself and drop your tail down between your legs, so to speak, as well as the flat back, lower back, you might find that you have to clench your buttocks and that your buttocks seem to kind of disappear a little bit. Long term, that's exactly what tends to happen. People with a tucked under position have got a smaller bottom. It's as if it kind of just disappears a little bit. There is a reason for that. When we walk, what builds our buttock muscles? It's not clenching or squeezing. That doesn't solve or strengthen anything. It's the action of walking well, using our feet and pushing off with that foot that we leave behind to get our buttocks to work. But the pelvis needs to move during our walking cycle. So if the pelvis is stuck in this tucked under position and we're trying to move, we can't actually move that leg behind us very effectively at all. There's going to be a limitation. So by and large then, buttocks have got less of a chance to work. They kind of waste away. So if you want a more rounded bottom, which is full of strength, make sure your pelvis moves. Your feet also need to move, but more on that at a later date. So that's one effect. So a smaller bum, a less defined posterior, a flatter back. What does that mean in terms of longer term consequences? Well, the lower back curve is really useful for us. It is part of that natural shock absorption because our back is like a spring that absorbs shock from us walking. A flatter back means we don't shock absorb well. Not so good for bone health. Secondly also, it opens certain joints in the spine in a more kind of open fashion because we are moving away from the natural position of the lumbar curve. And if we are, for example, lifting something in that tucked under position, and you probably realize that that's not how we're supposed to lift things according to sort of the standard physiotherapy manuals and reference pictures, this opens us up to the risk of disc herniation because add too much load, a tucked under spine, a weaker core, which will go together with the pelvis that is stuck in one position. We are open to the forces that create that kind of pressure effect that can cause our discs to be unhappy, protrude, bulge, or whatever. So we want to have a neutral pelvis that can be there when it's needed, tucked under when it's needed, untucked completely when it's needed. We want to experience all of those movements. So, to work on your core, to be in the best possible alignment, because it all feeds into the same picture, we want our pelvis to be mobile in a good way. How to self-assess might be your next question, and that's a very good one. So you need a mirror and something like a plumb line or a belt with a buckle, something like a rope with a weight, anything. I've got a yoga belt here. There's a bit of a buckle here at the end. So if we stand sideways on to a mirror and look at ourselves in the mirror, in profile, like so, I want you to find there's a bony bit to the wider part of your hip. Find that bony bit, attach that rope, belt to that point, and let the weight drop down. Can you see that the weight of that buckle drops down to about my ankle? That's a pelvis that's stacked over my feet. If I stand with my hips shifted forwards, like most of us do these days, the weight comes somewhere to the middle or the front of the foot. That's not so good because that compresses in the back and stretches the front of the body. So that's the first thing to self-assess. But you can be tucked under and hips shifted forward, or really kind of tail up, really untucked and hips shifted forward. So that doesn't solve the whole thing. It's just one of the ways the pelvis moves. So the second thing is literally to self-assess your back. See if you're maintaining that lumbar curve, if you are feeling that maybe your formerly glorious rounded buttocks are now kind of less defined, etc. And see whether you feel in profile that you might have a loss of a curve. Maybe you've been told that. If you do that, what is the best thing to recreate it? The best way to recreate it is work on your core stability and on your breathing, because it all ties in with breathing. So we need to self-assess the breathing, make sure we're not breathing high up in the neck. So tensing the shoulders and letting the core just kind of go, I'm not involved in this breathing business at all. So calm in the shoulders, relaxed in the neck, taking the breath into the rib cage, making sure the rib cage expands sideways, front to back, not just up and down with the shoulders. Checking that the rib cage rotates well, doesn't have a preference for going one way only, or maybe it does not like to rotate at all. The breath should expand the belly a little bit. Work on recreating the lumbar curve. Work on that stability of and the motor control of the pelvis. Make sure that the pelvis can do this movement and that movement. So a little bit of movement here and there, coupled with breathing drills, core strengthening drills. And that will go a long way towards starting to open your back out of protection mode, because chances are your back has gone into that protection mode, not necessarily just through habit, but also because it feels safer for your back to be that way. So if you've got any scarring, that might need some work, scarring like from past surgeries on the belly, that might feed into this equation. If you've got any issues with excess tension, find out why you're holding tension in those areas. Don't just go rubbing it out. If you've got tight hamstrings, they're probably tight for a reason. That's typically a protective mechanism because the back is not stable enough. So recreate deep strength in the back muscles through one of my deep core drills. So breathing coupled with something like crocodile breathing, or on the back, legs up, breathing into the sides. All of those things we cover in my classes and one-to-ones. If you would like some more information, have never been assessed before, have never worked with me before, and if you're concerned about your presentation, whether you've lost the spinal curve or you've got an exaggerated, very tight spinal curve, please reach out. We can have a chat, can give you some pointers, and we can take it from there. I hope that's been helpful. Have a lovely rest of your day, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye for now.